Beautiful wild hearts and viewers of this summit. Welcome to today's presentation and interview with Nathan and Aline, who are the founders of Untitled Chapter and the Divine Pollination Hive. And they use a lot of EFT meridian tapping to integrate their inner shadows towards their passion, which is assisting the movement of people and the planet from a fear vibration into a more conscious and loving world where truth of love is given the highest priority and sacredness. And they feel through this work, particularly with the subject title today of conscious arguing, can be something that helps to bring about lasting peace on planet Earth, where even, as they say, the quote from the Bible, the wolf will lay down with the lamb. Nathan and Aline, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. We're very excited to be here.
So the title of today's talk is The Art of Conscious Arguing. So I guess we better start at the beginning. Well, you can explain how do we argue consciously?
Well, to know how you argue consciously, you first have to know how we unconsciously argue, and to identify that. And an unconscious argument goes something like this. Ow, you're hurting me. I need you to understand that. Now stop it.
Stop. Just stop.
And so when people think about the term understanding, I just don't feel understood. What they're saying is, you're not listening to me because you're still doing it. Whatever this thing is that hurts me. And for the masculine or masculine man, it's usually stereotypically it's men are freedom and women are safety. But for that's just a stereotype. But the man is usually going to be, or at least the masculine in the relationship is going to want their freedom, and the feminine in the relationship is going to want their safety. And so whenever the safety infringes upon the freedom says, ow, stop that, you're imposing on my freedom. And whenever the freedom imposes on the safety says, ow, stop that, you're imposing on my safety. And so those are the two sides of duality. You could also say that's chaos and order, or yin and yang. It's the same thing. But it's this idea of everybody's just saying, ow, stop it, and do it my way. And that's how most people argue. And then they argue to make people understand their way so that they'll convert to their way. And then conscious arguing is just a little bit different, where instead of arguing to get it our way, we argue to understand how I am also the safety side, me being freedom, how I'm also safety, and how she being safety is also freedom. And we seek to not compromise, but instead both live our truth 100% without compromise. And so we argue to get to that 100% her, 100% me. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. So what you're saying, there's a sort of foundation in the practice. So you're starting from an idea that you're both holding two parts equally, and that you're not trying to, I guess you're kind of dropping the idea of needing to be right. Is that a kind of key element, would you say?
Yes, exactly. And it's also, we actually go from the viewpoint of you create your own reality. So he's showing me my shadow side, and I'm showing him his shadow sides. But it's actually him that is allowing this, whatever action it is that I am doing that he wants to stop. I am actually showing him something. He's creating this in some way because there's a part of his shadow side that is allowing this behavior to come in. So instead of saying, "I'll stop it," we're going to ask, why is it there? Why do you feel the need to do this action? So no, I'll stop it, but let's do it consciously.
Okay, and can you just talk about the shadow side? What do you mean by that?
Do you want me to do it?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Well, the shadow side, actually, he just said safety and freedom, right? Those are the big two aspects. You have the feminine side and the masculine side. Most of the time, the feminine side is the safety side, and the masculine side is the freedom side. But sometimes it can be reversed. But most of the times, it's like that. And which means that I am safety, I am feminine. My shadow side will be my masculine freedom side, and I will see him act out freedom. And I will be like, stop it, because the other side of me, the light side of me, the side that's in the light, the side that I know, doesn't like that. But underneath it all, I have the same urges, I have the same patterns, I have the same belief systems that I picked up when I was a child. And I pushed them away because I didn't like them. So one part of me didn't like the other part of me, started fighting internally. And the side that's in the light is the side that won, and the side that's in the dark is the side that you don't want to see in yourself. So that's actually the shadow side, everything that you don't want to see about yourself that you then see in other people. Now all of a sudden, because they're your mirrors, they're going to show you everything you don't want to see in yourself.
Yeah, so everything you hate about others is what you are suppressing within your own self. Those are things that you've stuffed down, you've hidden, you've put the lock and key on, and you're saying never again. I understand that's bad, I'm not going to do that.
Exactly.
But it's understanding it hurts. It's not a higher level of understanding. It's a very judgmental level of understanding.
Exactly. Yeah, and it's actually also, and this is I think very important, because a lot of people know a little bit about the shadow side, and they know a little bit about the fact that they are what they see. But they don't go deep enough, and then they start fighting. The ego starts fighting because it doesn't understand. So for example, you see somebody murder somebody, and then you're like, I'm against that. I don't want that. I want him to stop. And then you're like, but I'm not a murderer. This is not part of my shadow side. And it is not literally a part of your shadow side. But all the patterns that are behind it, a part of that, a little tiny part of that, is actually also inside of you. And that is the difficult part when we are doing our job, is that when we try to explain to people what the shadow side is, they have a misconception of what shadow side means. It is not just a straightforward mirror, he's an asshole, so I must be an asshole. That doesn't mean that it's like straightforward like that, but there is a pattern behind it, like energy mathematics behind it. And if you see the energy pattern behind it, if you understand, then you can actually also find it within yourself.
Yeah.
And so what is it that we're, so say somebody does something and, you sit there and think, oh, you're an asshole. Say, you're in a relationship and your partner cheats on you, for example, and you think, oh, well, they're an asshole.
Yeah.
How would you then go about looking for that mirror and that piece of reflection to see something in yourself when that happens?
Okay, well, so you have the action side and you have the being side. You have the action is the doing, and then you have who you are, which is your being. So as an example, guilt is about wrong actions, shame is about wrong being. So those are two different things. So if somebody cheats in the relationship and we want to say, ow, stop it, right? Because that's the action, you should feel guilty for that. But what they're doing is they're reflecting a piece of myself. What pattern is it inside me that is constantly cheating? And I don't understand cheating, and I want to understand cheating. And so then you start to look at it. And we have something called a Duality to Unity feelings wheel that we came up with as a result of all the work that we've been doing, which we do sell on our website, and along with a tutorial. But on this thing, we found that there's unity feelings, these feelings that are whole being states. And then there's the being state of separation, which splits into two things, an action and a being. So as an example, you have faithfulness is the being state of unity. But then when that splits in two, and it comes into this dimension of duality of right and wrong, good and bad, us, them, you have the criticalness is the being state, and then tolerance is like an action to get around it. So you can either be critical of everybody's actions when they're not in line with yours, or you can be tolerant when they're not in line with yours. But those are the duality halves. Now if you take tolerance, and you take criticalness, and you mash them back together, and you put them back together into one, they become faithfulness again. But you can't be tolerant to get around the problem, because you're just tolerating the cheating. So, you know, whenever they're saying tolerance in the media, you need to be more tolerant. What they're saying is tolerate this person cheating on you.
Yeah, exactly.
And that doesn't matter if it's right or wrong. It's just whatever your viewpoint is, whatever your expectation is, if they're doing something opposite of you, then you're going to feel cheated on. And you can either be tolerant of that cheating, or you can be critical of it and very judgmental.
Yeah. Yeah, so very practically, if you are a couple and the guy cheats, and let's say you're honest about it, because that's like the main thing. If you're not honest about it, you can't do conscious arguing, because you have to be conscious of what's really going on. If one of the partners is lying or hiding stuff, you will never be able to get to the depth of it. But let's say you're honest. Let's say that is the agreement that you made. So the guy comes home and says, I want to have sex with another person, or I had sex with another person. That is going to bring to awareness, bring to light a lot of feelings in the other partner. And then you have to ask yourself, one, why am I feeling what I'm feeling? And two, why did I allow this in my life?
Why did I create it?
How did I create this? How did I co-create this? How are we a vibrational match? How am I a vibrational match with the person that's cheating? So those are actually the questions you're working with in this situation. You allow the feelings to be there, and you allow the action to be there, but you keep talking to each other. And this is very important, and it's difficult because the guy cannot stop saying, as long as he feels it, as long as he feels the urge to want to go and have sex with other people, he has to keep saying it. And as long as she's feeling pain, she has to keep saying it. They have to keep verbalizing their true feelings to each other. And it looks at a certain point, and we've had this a lot of times in our discussions, that it really looks like we're never going to get to anything, because it looks like opposites, duality opposites. I'm on this side, you're on that side. My highest joy would be that you would stop doing this and this and this and this. My highest joy would be that you would like this and this and this and this. And we're just stalemate, you know?
Yeah.
But because you're totally honest, and instead of acting and instead of running away or fighting, you actually say, why is it here? How did we co-create this? I'm not completely happy, you're not completely happy. We want to be together, and then we have these actions that are not meshing up. So why is it there? And that actually does help. That does work.
And these discussions will be quite heated. It's not like this is like, golly gee willikers, why did you go have sex with another person? Or why, you know, why did you want to have sex with that person?
Very heated.
You know, it's not like that. It's there is some real feelings like, you asshole, you jerk, and why would you do something like that? Or
honest.
You know,
it's just honest.
Well, you're so smothering, and why do you do that? And you know, it's from an emotional perspective. It just feels so heavy on me. Stop it. And
exactly.
And we go through these discussions, but we stay at it, and we keep trying to get the insight. We try to get that aha moment, because conscious arguing is not conscious arguing without the epiphany. And the epiphany is where both people go, that's why we're creating this. And it's usually at the same time, and it's like this light that goes on in the room, and both sides understand them. Now, it might just understand an aspect of it, and it might come back, because things are cyclical. You know, we peel back layers of our trauma, and we're always kind of just peeling back another layer. You know, for the man, it's his freedom is his trauma, or for the masculine, and for the feminine, her safety is her trauma. Yeah,
especially with a big concept like cheating, the concept that you brought up. It's such a big concept that you're going to have lots of different angles coming up with that concept. Yeah, but I mean, it is a very common thing within humanity.
I mean, a guy can cheat by watching football too much, or you know, by playing video games too much, or you know, a woman can cheat by gossiping to her friends or to her mother. You know, I mean, there's all different kinds of ways of cheating that aren't just cheating.
Exactly.
I'm really glad you mentioned that, because we tend to focus just on the kind of result, the end result of they had sex with somebody else, and we often forget all the little details of all the little actions that we take that lead up to those moments.
Exactly.
And then, so I think that's really, really important. So how then in one of these situations do you bring in conscious arguing? What does it look like?
Okay. Do you have an example? Well, we do it day to day. really seriously. We argue all the time. And it's all the time our conscious argument. And actually right now we're so trained in it that we actually know how to go in it automatically. So for example, if something happens, he does something, and I feel triggered, I will say that to him. I would say, I feel triggered. A trigger means I feel angry, or I feel sad, or I feel afraid. So then we will start talking about my feelings about this. And then we will try to go back to childhood. Where else did you feel this pattern? Where else did you feel these feelings?
Yeah, was it with mom, dad, grandpa, aunt, uncle, sibling?
Which is the why? Why is it there? Why are you open to this? And if it's a small trigger, we can do this very softly, and he can really support me. When it's a double-sided trigger, in the sense that I get triggered and immediately he gets triggered on the opposite side, these are the very heated discussions where we have to actually keep ourselves in line so that we don't go to the I am right and you should stop this, which sometimes even happens still, but we keep asking why. We keep asking why it's there. Where from childhood did it come from? Was it mom? Was it dad? Was it my grandfather? And the more you do this, the more you easily go back to childhood and actually find the pattern.
Yeah, it's looking for a pattern. And while we're doing it, we're tapping too. So we're arguing, but we're also we're touching on our energy meridians so that we can also impact and reverse the energy flow. Because, right, a trigger is always reversed energy, and it's going the wrong direction. But if you can resolve the trigger through understanding, then the pattern will shift. And so we're supporting our energy body and our physical body and our emotional body through tapping while we're having these discussions.
Yeah. It's also nicer to actually be able to do something. So pacing and doing this actually makes it that your body is engaging with something, which makes it easier to go through the motions. So that is conscious arguing. That's how we do it.
Okay. So because there's so much information out there now on relationships, and you get some things and some people that say, oh, you should never ever compromise on anything, and some people say, oh, compromise is a really healthy part of relationship. So you're talking about arguing in a way that nobody has to compromise even 1%, and both people can get what they want and feel really great about it. How do you see that?
Well, there's first of all, like from my perspective, I know that I didn't understand a lot. So I thought certain things would make me feel better. Okay, so the ego will have this idea, like if only this happens, if I can only get this, then I'll be happy, right? And so I don't want to compromise that. Through conscious arguing, you can help the ego understand that that might not be the best thing. And so in that way, you don't actually always get what you want or what you think you want, because it's not necessarily beneficial. Sure, you can go and do this thing, but it's not beneficial to yourself or the relationship, and it's only going to end up in more pain for yourself chasing after this.
Yeah, and sometimes it's also very, very important for the partner to love the other one enough to actually allow them their process. If it is something that really he needs to experience to know for himself, this is really not beneficial to my life, even though I already know and I already feel it because I'm showing his shadow side and his shadow side is saying, no, this is not a good thing. But if he then says, well, I don't feel it yet, I don't see it yet, I don't understand it yet, then I cannot say to him, stop doing the action. I have to allow him to do the action while I keep saying what I need to say. And from what we understand is we don't compromise, but we actually choose to both not get what we want until we can both get what we want, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, we've taken it a step further. I mean, you can do it the other way, but you can actually go through with all the actions, and it is possible. It's just going to slow you down. Yeah. So we almost manifest. We almost go through with the actions, just to the point where we're really triggered and annoyed and frustrated and upset with each other, so that we can clear it within ourselves.
And then it clears, and then actually, lo and behold, all of a sudden we're both really happy, and that thing that we were fighting about is not even there anymore. It's
Yeah,
not
it's
not
a
an
non-issue.
aspect. Yeah,
It's
not an
non-issue.
issue.
Because what we're doing is we're taking freedom and we're taking security or safety, and we're making them one.
Yeah.
So right now it's a tug of war. It's like this side more security, this side more freedom, and it's just back and forth, right? It's a seesaw or it's a tug of war. But if we can just take the two and make them one, then we can have something completely new. And so, like we said with faithfulness, that's tolerance and critical, mashing those together. Another thing is like lust. Lust and jealousy are two halves of satisfaction. You look at greed or selfishness, and greed is the other half of sacrifice. So you take greed and sacrifice, you mash them back together, you get abundance. But you can't have abundance without greed and sacrifice becoming one. You can't have satisfaction without lust and jealousy becoming one. And so you have to take the freedom and the security side, and you have to put them back together so that it can be trust, because trust is actually unity consciousness, the trust consciousness. You take chaos, you take order, you mash them back together, it's trust. You take freedom and safety, you mash it back together, it's trust. There's no cheating when you're in a perfect being state of trust.
Sounds fabulous. Can you give an example of how how an argument might play out between you in terms of something specific, and how you might resolve it and where that ends up?
Like an example, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. What was the last thing that we were talking about? We have a lot of triggers going right now.
We're working on one right now where whining.
Yes,
and
exactly.
We haven't actually resolved this one, but we're working to resolve it because we just saw it the last 2 days.
Yeah, we can share it with you, but we haven't resolved it yet.
Yeah.
So
what happens is there's something that I feel powerless about or she feels powerless about, and we know we can't do anything about it, so we just whine about it instead. And then the other person who hears the whining is like, would you just stop? Stop your whining.
Gets really annoyed. Yeah.
Both of us.
Yeah.
An example is we have some cats in the house, and we clean the litter box, and even if the litter box is nice and clean and fresh, sometimes a cat will just go pee next to the litter box on purpose, just completely outside of the litter box. And you're like, oh, so I got to talk to her about it. I'm like, it just annoys me so much.
He comes down, and the first thing he says to me is, and the cat peed next to the litter box again, and and he just keeps going, and I'm like, oh my God, you and your whining. I really get about it. So I have to say then that my first reaction is, do you really have to whine like this? And then apparently
I'll stop it.
Yes. And then he's like, yeah, apparently I have to because I'm doing it. So okay, yeah, you're right. So, and then we start talking about it. So since we had a full day today, so we didn't have the time to actually do the process yet. But what is happening then is we sit down and we actually start feeling into it. So he starts feeling into it. What do you feel? Why do you feel so bad?
Why do I whine? Because I am completely powerless and I can't change this. Exactly. This manifestation that keeps happening over and over and over. And with her, she whines about being tired all the time.
Yeah.
So no matter how much sleep she gets, she feels tired still, and so she whines about that. It's a pattern that she can't get out. It's a manifestation that happens, and she can't get out of it.
And the perpetuating cycle, actually, because this is not a very big trigger, so it's fairly easy to see that when he whines to me, I'm also going to feel powerless. Because what he's whining about, I can't change anything either about that. It's something he's creating with the cat. It's something he has to see, he has to work on. And him telling it to me doesn't make it that I can help him. So now we're both feeling powerless. That's the only thing that happens when you're whining, is actually you pull the other one also in powerlessness. So we tap on that. I feel powerless. I feel so powerless.
Yeah, it's just like, oh, I'm so powerless and I just want to whine about it. Oh, I'm just whining so much. It's not fair. I get so annoyed. The cat doesn't know where to go.
So my curiosity here, because it sounds to me that what you're doing as a couple and in a relationship is like a duo version of like constellation work. You know, so you're mapping out these constellations and patterns, and my sense is it's like once you come to a place of total acceptance of the cat peeing, total acceptance of feel tired all the time, it changes, and the cats will suddenly stop it.
It's not total acceptance, it's total understanding. Because the thing is, I have a pattern. There are so many people out there that have cats that go perfectly well in the litter box, you know. There's so many people out there that are not tired. Therefore, it must be me. It must be my patterning. But I have to understand why I am patterned this way. And the cats are actually a very small example of a pattern that is littered all over his life. Me being tired is a small example of a pattern that's littered all over my life. And that is actually the magic of conscious arguing, and the magic of what we do is seeing stories that are seemingly completely different, but when you feel into them, they have the same patterns.
Yeah.
And we give a small example right now because that is the first thing that comes up in our minds, but it goes so much further than that. It's yeah, it's definitely not just acceptance. Now, of course, in the moment you have to accept, but you also have to understand for it to stop being like that. Otherwise, you're just accepting what is, and it will always be this way.
Yeah, acceptance is sometimes people can use acceptance as a spiritual bypass to get around their uncomfortable feelings, and then it's really just resignation.
Yeah.
I'm resigned to it, and I put a smile on my face and say it's peace.
And that's not fun.
I'm not saying that acceptance is bad when it's really acceptance, but most people go into resignation.
Full acceptance actually comes from full understanding. When you fully understand a certain concept, you can actually accept that part of yourself.
Yeah.
I had a very big trigger coming up a couple days ago. Something that for me was something I was running away from for a very long time. And that is that when I am in certain situations, I go into freeze mode. You have the flight, fight, freeze. Those are the survival tactics, right? And I go into freeze mode with certain things. And I am unable to act. I'm unable to keep myself safe, and I'm unable to keep the people that I love safe. Even though in my mind, I make stories about what I would say and what I would do and how I would protect my family, how I would protect myself. In the moment, I actually freeze, and I'm unable to do anything. And I had a lot of criticism towards people around me that were doing the exact same thing. They were freezing. And you would see them not act when, for example, their baby got hurt, or they would be with an abusive husband and they wouldn't go away from that abusive husband. And inside of myself, I would be like, why not? Just act, just leave, just do something, just tell the motherfucker to not do it anymore. But I was the exact same way. It's a yeah. I was the exact same way inside of myself. I was no different. And I was running away from that part of me.
Given the same situation, she would do the same thing.
Exactly. And we uncovered that a couple days ago, and that was for me a really big aha moment. And the moment that I understood that I am like these people, not only can I talk a lot better to these people.
Yeah, without being critical.
Without being critical, but actually stuff is moving, stuff is shifting now. Not only for me, but for the people around me. And that's really cool.
Yeah, the people that in question, their lives are changing as our lives are changing because we understood how we were them.
Exactly.
So you're kind of helping them to release their patterns by being in contact with them?
Well, from the moment she came to me, one of them came to me, and I understood this pattern, I could for the first time talk to her without actually having the judgmental, critical, I know what you should do way of talking to her. And she opened up, and all of a sudden she did find her own answers, and she resonated higher because now she could find me on a higher level. So in that way, yes, my being state is helping other people to also find their own higher being state. But I have to find it first in myself, and that's how it all is. When you see people outside of you doing crazy shit, you have it inside of you. Otherwise, you could not be in contact with these people.
Yeah.
How hard that is to hear, it really is like that. You have the key to change it. You have the key.
Yeah, in this way, one person can change the world. One couple, one person can change. I mean, if you really hate war enough, you have to find war inside of you to negate it. And how do you negate it? By ending conflict within yourself. Not just by going to one side or the other, because that is one way to end conflict, is to, to fully jump into one of the two sides, and now there's no conflict on that side. Or you can actually integrate them and neutralize the charge. When you neutralize the charge, you bring them back into one. Then you take the two into the one. You take greed and sacrifice, and you make it abundance. As an example.
That sounds very, very powerful and potent. So that the possibilities for this idea of creating peace, and it's like something I was talking about yesterday. The meaning of the Sanskrit mantra Om Shanti Shanti Shanti, which talks about 3 different levels of peace and how we need to find peace inside, peace in the world, and they all overlap. So by unraveling all these patterns and removing them and coming to a greater level of peace, that you can change the world. Yeah, exactly.
Yes, definitely.
Exactly. And if you have the guts to do it with your partner, which is quite gutsy to do that, but it's very rewarding, because now you can actually work on peace, world peace, every single day. Every time something is bothering you about your partner, which is, for most couples that are allowed together, it's regularly. It's normal. They are going to show you your shadow side. If you then can see every single time, I am creating this, I am actually co-creating this, I'm a vibrational match, and this person will level up. Sometimes I will tap on my own, like we will have a discussion, and I will go up, or I will go somewhere else, and I will start tapping on what I feel. I will go back to my childhood. I can do that alone, so you don't have to be together in your arguments. You can do this alone.
Yeah.
I tap, I get my insights. The moment I get my insights, he will come to me and we will talk, and he will be a different person. The other way around, just the same thing. So you can do it alone. You don't have to be with your partner doesn't have to cooperate to be able to do this. It's of course nicer if you can do it together, but sometimes we do it apart too, and it works just as well.
Yeah, I mean, before I met her, I was doing this with partners, and it was more one-sided. I was doing most of it, but then I would kind of tap them out of my life, so to speak, until the point I found her, and now we just do this all the time together. And it's also very interesting because the media and what's going on in the news will often mirror what we're feeling and the kind of conflicts we're going through.
Exactly.
So we'll turn on the TV, or we'll go to a news site on the internet and just see what's kind of going on in the news, and then I can start taking and piecing together the external conflict or the things that are going on in the world, the divisiveness there, and bring them into our relationship and see how, oh, this discussion we're having right now is the same thing they're doing right now in the world, but they're in this battle, so to speak, and we're clearing it within us.
Yeah, sometimes we even do it consciously. We go to a certain place where we know there was a lot of fighting, a lot of trauma. We go there, we visit the place, and we actually set intent to pull it inside of us.
We went to a concentration
for the purpose of
camp.
understanding. Yeah.
We went to Brain concentration camp and did that. And
for the purpose of understanding and clearing that place. Because the thing is that you cannot clear anything, you cannot clean anything up if you don't understand it. You have to find it inside of yourself. And for us, that felt good to do that, so we did that, and it was a very interesting week.
Yeah, after doing that, we did pull some, dark things into us.
Yeah.
But it really just highlighted our dark things.
Yes, exactly.
It's not like we pulled them in. It was like we opened ourselves up to who we really were when we were there.
Yeah.
At the concentration camp or at these other places.
Yeah. So it was helping us too to get more free and more safe.
Yeah.
Wow, that's really something. So the question that's live for me at the moment is just curious about, so if you are entering into a conscious relationship where this kind of arguing and discussion takes a place of importance, what are the keys and the foundations needed in a relationship to be able to practice this successfully?
Well, number one is honesty, I would say. Definitely honesty. You cannot say, I'm not going to say this because it's going to hurt this person, or I'm not going to do this because it's going to hurt this person. That is really important. And the second thing is, you have to love your partner more than you love your wound. I have to love him more than I love my safety. And he has to love me more than he loves his freedom. Because if we cannot go beyond and look higher up because of our love for each other, we will just get stuck and attached to our wound, and we will not do the work.
Yeah, there's so many people who are attached and find identity in their wound.
Yeah.
And before we met each other, we did an awful lot of work on removing our identity from our wound and finding our higher identity.
Yeah.
And and Carl Jung calls that individuation. You know, separating ourselves from, you know, this big mess of codependency. And so we had removed a certain layer of codependency. Now, we were still codependent when we met, but we had removed some layers of it prior to meeting each other so that we could love each other more than the wound.
Yes. The wound was still there, but we knew who we were to each other, and we knew to look above that. And to, even though I feel really unsafe, I'm still going to choose him above my unsafety. And even though he feels really unfree, he's still choosing me above his being unfree. And that doesn't mean that we're going to like choose as in it's never going to get healed, but that's how you can actually work through stuff.
Yeah. Plus, there's something called mature monogamy, and that is also a very important thing to look into is removing your escape hatches.
Yeah.
You know, there is no out for this. When it gets really bad, I'm not going to leave her, and I already said that. And it's just not going to happen. And when it's really bad, she's not going to leave me.
No.
And that might look bad because, you know, have some self-respect. You need to leave that person when they treat you that way. But that's not what we're trying to do and accomplish. We're not trying.
You cannot run away from your mirror. And as long as you're going to keep changing the faces of your mirror, you're going to have the illusion that you can run away from it. It's not true. You cannot run away from your mirror. So we just decided to take that off the table. And no matter what he does or no matter what I do, we don't leave.
So the relationship is there, hell or high water.
Yes,
you know, we're going
literally.
For it. And we even said unity or bust.
Exactly.
You know, unity consciousness, getting back into trust consciousness, or bust.
Yeah.
Great. So if you're in a relationship with somebody and only one of you is practicing this way of conscious relating, what do you do? Do you go and look for another mirror who's willing to do the practice, or
no?
Or is there some other way of being?
No, it's not necessary, because normally when you start doing the process alone, just like he said, you either tap that person out of your life organically, not because of fighting or whatever. It's just it flows away, or they change their attitude around it.
So they either are ready to accept your new state of being and they come closer to you, or they can't take your new state of being, your elevated state of being, and they naturally gravitate out. I mean, I had one instance where I did a 4-hour or 3-hour EFT session in the morning. My girlfriend was sleeping, and I was like wondering why I was with her. And I was like, why am I with this person? She's so emotionally unavailable, and I don't get this. And I worked really hard to understand why I was with her. And I had the epiphany, and I cleared it, and I felt this huge load off my shoulder and off my chest. And she usually woke up at 6 in the morning, but for whatever reason, that day she slept till noon. And she gets up, she walks down the stairs, and she looked at me, she said, let's break up. And I looked at her, and I was like, okay. And that was it. I mean,
So it was very, very smooth.
And I've actually heard of similar things from my clients and from our clients, where people just naturally just break up afterwards, or they get closer together. If they're meant to be together, they'll get closer, and if they're not, then they'll just naturally go their separate ways.
I mean, my personal, personal belief is the whole idea of breaking up with people is a kind of, we only break up because there's unresolved emotional things that we haven't cleared between the two people, because, if we are creating a unity consciousness, then we should be able to come together and move away from each other, well, within the same field of love and truth. And, there's no need for it to leave any baggage behind. So you're essentially saying that this is very possible and actually happens for people.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. But it starts with working on your inside and not blaming stuff on the outside and then saying, I'm going to have some self-respect and I'm going to leave you, because that's going to create some other kind of feelings.
Yeah, you can really work through your issues so that when or if it is time to go away from each other, there's no tearing.
No.
It was surgically removed. It was surgically cut apart, the enmeshment.
Yeah.
You know, because we have two different types of unity. There's enmeshed unity and there's unity consciousness. And enmeshed unity is this spider web of tangled weaving of pain and wound, and it's connecting through your wound. And it's like, yes, we're united through our pain, we're united through our wound, and that's enmeshment. And that's one way people come together and they unite. And when people are saying, yes, we're standing as one against this atrocity, they're uniting from their wound.
Yeah.
They're uniting from their pain. And that's enmeshment. But when we talk about unity consciousness, we're talking about cleaning up the connections so that we can now unite from this higher place of love and intimacy, rather than the wound.
Yeah, and it doesn't mean that you have to not ever see each other anymore. Like, he has lots of friends that used to be girlfriends, but the energy just transformed, and now the relationship has changed, has shifted into something else. But it is just as much still a friendship, still a connection. So it's not because you drift away because the paths go a different direction that you have to say, I'm cutting you out of my life, never seeing you anymore.
Yeah, that's usually
not
a wound.
necessary.
That's because you tore the codependency apart. You didn't surgically clear it.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So, so how would someone work with this if they're doing this work on their own and they feel triggered? What practices would you do to go for that?
We start going for just how we feel in the moment. You know, we just start tapping. I mean, you can just say, I feel betrayed right now.
Yeah, so you have to know how to tap. And it's also very beneficial if you know how to work with the feelings wheel, because that's something that we use daily.
Yeah, you can use it.
It helps us a lot.
There's free versions of the feelings wheel online that you can get. I even have a tutorial on it on one of my websites. But there's also, we created the Duality to Unity feelings wheel, which goes deeper into the two dualistic opposites
versus the unity feeling.
Versus the unity feeling.
Yeah.
So we kind of took that to the next level. But having the tools necessary to understand what you're feeling and to look at it, you know, like, okay, I'm feeling this, but I really want to be feeling that, and, you know, just trying to look at it right now. Like, I'm feeling really jealous. That means my partner is lusting, but I really just want to feel satisfied in my life, and I don't feel satisfied, and obviously they don't feel satisfied. Why do I not feel satisfied? And then you just start tapping on that and say, I don't feel satisfied. I'm so jealous right now. You know, I'm so angry and I feel powerless to change this in my life. And so you just start honoring the feelings. You just speak them out. You know, this is what I'm feeling right now. And then you look for the pattern. You know, how is this happening in my life?
Actually,
why is it happening?
Why, asking why is very important. If you want to go to the pattern, you have to ask why.
Yeah, too many people try to find a how can I fix this instead of why am I in this? Yeah, why is it here? How can I avoid this again, or why is it here? So
and the how will come. The how will come, but you have to first understand fully why it is here, because it has a message for you. And if you don't have the full message, it's going to keep coming back to try to give you the message.
Yeah, but too many people just go right into the how to fix it, and don't try to understand why they created it in the first place.
Yeah.
And so you have to go to the why, which is understanding. How is wisdom? Why is understanding? And the divine marriage or unity consciousness is taking understanding and wisdom and taking them together.
Yeah.
But if there is no understanding because everybody's just trying to find the wise thing to do, then they're not going to get very far.
So where do you see this work heading to?
Oh, what we want or what we see? It's kind of the same thing, maybe.
Well, what you want, you might have to tap that when it doesn't happen. So, so just as in what you see the possibilities of unfolding.
Within our life, you know, we see world peace with us.
Yes.
And you know, we're going to have world peace in our relationship.
We want perfection in total safety, total freedom, total connection.
Yeah, I want to be living in the being state of trust with her. That means I'm going to have, you know, full understanding, full wisdom, Yeah, just a divine relationship. And they call this the divine marriage or the divine union. Jesus and Mary Magdalene were supposedly, in a divine marriage. And that's the kind of thing that we also strive for and desire, and we work with people who also, choose that for their relationships.
Yeah. So that's the spiritual side, is more that, the connection, the unity, the flow. And then for the earthly thing is we want full abundance and full satisfaction, which is something that everybody has a different image when you hear those words, but it's just a being state. It's actually just an energy that you're in. And almost nobody is in that, because we have all these belief patterns about scarcity, which makes it very difficult to be in abundance and in satisfaction. So that is actually also one of the things that we are working on very hard, and wanting to bring this to the world. So the patterns that we bring in through us, we also bring this for the world, so that people who like it can now find the way to it.
Yeah, it's when we resolve something between us in our relationship, it's like we're the first monkey, maybe we're the 10th monkey, maybe we're the 100th monkey. It doesn't really matter which monkey we are, but we're creating a solution key, and we're reinforcing this new way of relating in the collective consciousness of planet Earth and of humanity. And so now they can find that solution too if they need it. They don't even have to come to us personally. They don't have to watch our videos or do sessions with us, because these are all being uploaded. These solution keys to this problem is being uploaded, and it gets uploaded to the world leaders as well, and it gets uploaded to everybody on the planet if they just want it.
Yeah.
But they have to. But it's now there for access. It's in the library, so to speak.
Well, it's what I've been thinking about the last few days is the great. I've forgotten now if it's Hafiz or Rumi. I think it's Rumi. Beyond good and evil, there's a field. I will meet you there. And I was thinking, well, maybe it's time we tried to move to the field and then start just clearing everything out of the way that isn't good or evil.
Exactly.
And then maybe we can arrive. It's like we're trying to. It's like we're in this place trying to, travel to the field, and we need to move to the field and then start from there and see maybe we can clear out the things that are in the way, but still in that field.
Yeah,
and
integrate them. Yeah, and you cannot integrate when you're like going like this. Yeah, that's not integration.
So many people want to move to go to heaven. They're just like, sign me up, make me a martyr. I want to go to heaven. Or whatever it is that they're doing. They're working to go to heaven. And we're like, screw that. We're working to bring heaven to earth.
Yeah.
We're going to make the Garden of Eden.
It's time. It's time that this dimension becomes heaven again.
Yes.
It has all the attributes to be heaven, so why not?
Yes. So we just want to help. We want our piece of heaven here on earth.
Yeah.
We don't want to go anywhere. We want to bring it to us. And conscious arguing helps that.
Brilliant.
So that's what we want. Just a small thing that we want.
Nothing big,
Just a small thing. Well, what's the great quote? I can't remember now. It's something about demanding the impossible. Why settle for anything less?
Yeah.
Exactly. And we both are like this, so it's very interesting. We both are like perfection. It has to be unity or bust. So, yeah. No compromise. We don't compromise with each other. We don't compromise with the world. It's just like we want the perfection.
Yep.
It's an interesting take on the whole thing, because there's so much now saying, stop looking for perfection. You guys are like, nah, it's here.
Exactly.
Unravel it.
Yeah. We are creators, and we forgot that we're creators. We can change our patternings if we want. The only thing we have to know is we have to look what it is that we are patterned after. We have to understand our patterns, and then we can start changing them. Then we have our power back. And I think a lot of people don't understand how powerful we are and how important it is to gain that power again.
Yeah, to stop giving away that pattern to parasites. To stop giving it away.
Stop settling.
Yeah.
Stop settling. Stop saying, okay, it is the way it is, so I will just make the best of it. Fuck that. We're creators. Let's change it.
Yeah, this is the be the change, and that's why we took this process also, and we made a thing called Gandhi Groups. And Gandhi groups are just an extension of this, but it's getting groups of people together to discuss world events, but then trying to understand how those world events apply in a micro level and relationship level, and to see how I am what I'm, so it's like activism. You have an anti-war activist. Well, okay, let's get some people together who say this is a good war. Let's get some people together who say this is a bad war, and let's conscious argue it out. And we call that a Gandhi group. Yeah,
let's bring the two opposites together that are seemingly not meshable, and just work with them.
And let's create a place where neither side is going to compromise.
Yeah, really exciting always.
So tell me, what are you finding coming out of these Gandhi groups?
Oh, a lot more understanding for everybody involved. Also, I feel like a lot of times it starts with a big issue and it ends up being personal things. Because people find the big pattern, the big world, global pattern, they find them in their own childhoods. They find them in their own families. And all of a sudden it's closer to home. And they can see it. And then they can start opening up to different situations, because now it's not that enemy country, now it is grandmother or it is grandfather. And then now that enemy country is patterned after grandfather. So now they want to understand it. And that's actually what makes Gandhi groups really cool.
Yeah, it takes your power back when it comes to activism, because so many people are, again, in a how for their activism. They're trying to find a solution and a workaround with actions.
Yeah, and trying to manipulate other people to do what they think is best. And that is, we have way too much of that already. We have made way too much manipulating. Trying to get other people to do what you want when you don't have the energy to support that. So now you have to lie, you have to manipulate, you have to try to get them to still do it, even though your patterning is just not allowing it right now. And instead of that, just be honest with yourself. You're not able to organically create it right now. Stop manipulating. Try to clear it so that you can actually organically have your happiness. Because it takes a lot of work to manipulate and to lie.
A lot of energy is wasted there.
Okay. Well, now you've laid the template for world peace. I'd just like to invite you to conclude this conversation in the most beautiful and harmonious way you feel appropriate.
Ooh.
Okay.
Here you go, babe.
Well, I first would like to thank you for having us.
Definitely.
On the video summit. We appreciate that. It's definitely a gift for us, and I'm sure we hope that everybody who watches it will be a gift for them as well.
Yeah.
Well, it's certainly been a tremendous gift for me. So if it's as good for me, if it's as good for everyone else as it has been for me, then it promises to have a really amazing effect. So thank you guys for that.
Beautiful.
That's really cool.
And we encourage people to start asking why more. Because understanding begins with asking why. And we have a saying in the Hive that understanding is the catalyst of forgiveness. You can't forgive unless you understand. And once you understand, forgiveness automatically happens. And so if you don't understand why something happened in your life, or if you have a very low-level understanding, like, well, I understand what he did. He made me a victim. He was a villain, I was a victim. That's a very low understanding.
Or I understand why he did it. It's because he's a bad guy.
Yeah.
No.
But if we can start going above that and asking why, then we can start bringing in understanding. We crush why in our children. We crush why in the school systems. We crush why, in businesses and things like that. We stopped asking why, or we have very superficial why answers. Yeah. And so we have a very superficial understanding because of that. But if we can start encouraging our children to ask why more, if we can start encouraging ourselves to ask why more, if we can ask why, we don't ask why, and try to understand that, then we can really start the process of conscious arguing. But without asking why, there is no conscious arguing.
No.
There's just manipulation.
Honesty and why is two things that are really important.
So that's how we would wrap things up.
Fabulous. Well, that's just how you have wrapped things up. Thank you so much, Nathan and Aline, the Divine Pollination. Check out their amazing free gift video. And thank you again so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Be well.
Be well. Bye.
Thank you.